This is WION World is One. Time now for another episode of World of Africa. I'm Njoka. Welcome to the show. This week, the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris concluded with 12 African countries taking home an outstanding number of medals. 9 have won gold, and Kenya leads with altogether 11 medals, 4 gold, 2 silver, and 5 bronze. We highlight some of the names who created a mark and broke records at this year's Games from the continent. Thank you for joining us. As Kenya grapples with increasing cost of living and controversial government policies, Gen Z, a term used to refer to people born during the late 1990s and early 2000s, has harnessed the power of social media to fuel a wave of protests and political activism against Kenyan President William Ruto's 2-year-old administration. Despite the president trying to cool the tempers down, the agitation by the youth is still ongoing. Here is our cover report.
I, William Samoei Ruto.
Kenyan President William Ruto is a man who has been under siege from all corners of his country. After being forced to withdraw the controversial tax bill and dissolving his cabinet, he was on a course of healing the nation, which began with his austerity measures. President Ruto unveiled his new list of cabinet secretaries from the most unusual setup. Some of them are from the opposition party run by his opponent, Raila Odinga. One after the other, the 19 new cabinet secretaries were sworn in amid a significant security presence at the State House. A majority of the ministers in his new cabinet were in his previous cabinet, which has further angered protesters. President Ruto described his new team as an alliance of rivals in a nation that had long suffered factional and sectarian competition.
I freely admit that due to suboptimal communication of our development agenda and a feeling of insufficient public engagement, we have lost many opportunities to walk the journey of transforming Kenya with everyone aboard.
Even as the president was on the path of reconciliation, the youth and some who were dissatisfied with the new cabinet ran the streets aloud. Protests have been the new norm in the East African country for weeks. What started as a movement of Gen Z on social media quickly transformed in other groups, mostly hooligans, reigning the streets with a different agenda. In all of them, police were at hand to deal with them, and in most cases, journalists who were covering the events were caught in the crossfire. Talking about the digital revolution, Nairobi-based spoken word artist Stephanie Akini, who goes by the stage name Spontaneous the Poet, is using her music to communicate on the issues of social justice and political unrest that are affecting her generation. Her lyrics and performances condemn police violence against peaceful protesters and call on Kenyan politicians to be accountable for their actions, striking a chord with the nation's young people.
I think it just sucks, it sucks to be in a country that's supposed to take care of its citizens, but instead uses the power that it has been given by the people to kill its own.
More than 50 people have been killed since mid-June, when protesters began taking to the streets to oppose tax increases proposed by President Ruto, and that's according to the government-funded Kenyan National Commission on Human Rights. Activists have maintained calls for systemic changes to address corruption and governance issues at both national and county levels. Africa Bureau, WION, World is One. Kenya topped the African medal count with 11 medals, which includes 4 gold. Algeria is second place with 2 gold medals, and South Africa is third with 1 gold medal. Ethiopia completed the top 4, also having 1 gold medal, but with fewer silver medals. This year, the 12 African countries qualified for the competition performed even better, finishing just 1 medal ahead. The African continent won a total of 38 medals at the Paris 2024 Olympics. We now highlight some of the competitors who left the African stamp in Paris.
Let's start from the south. This man, Botswana's Letsile Tebogo, upset Noah Lyle's plan for an Olympic sprint double by storming to victory in the men's 200-meter event at the Paris Games. Tebogo clocked an African record of 19.45 seconds for gold, with American Kenny Bednarek taking silver in 19.62 seconds and Lyle's bronze in 19.70 seconds. Nearly 150 athletes represented Team South Africa at Paris 2024 in the country's 21st appearance at the Olympic Games. South Africa came into the Games looking to improve on their performance in Tokyo, where they won 3 medals. This time, they did so by finishing with 6 medals, including 1 gold, which was won by swimmer Tatiana Smith in the women's 100-meter breaststroke. Let's head to the north. Despite various controversies surrounding her, Iman Khelif made headlines over concerns regarding her gender. She endured constant bullying online and by some officials, forcing her father to make this plea before her final bout.
This is our official family document. May 2nd, 1999, Khalif Iman, a female. It is written here. You can read it. This document doesn't lie. It was registered in 1999. The people who are lying and leading a fierce campaign against her are the enemies of God. This document was written in 1999 when she was born.
And she proved all her critics wrong by clinching gold for Algeria, which made her countrymen erupt in jubilation and celebrations on the streets of Algiers.
Thank God she won and was a source of pride for Algerian women. It's a comeuppance for her enemies, as we say, and for all the people who were against her, even the well-known individuals who stood against her and said bad things that hurt her. I believe this is what motivated her to honor Algeria and win the gold medal.
Another African who surprised many was this man, Sofiane El Bakali, who returned to Morocco after his win at the Paris 2024 Olympics 3000-meter steeplechase. He was able to retain his gold medal that he won at the Tokyo Olympics as well. Upon his return to Morocco, El Bakali received a grand welcome at Rabat Airport, where his fans and supporters gathered to greet him. Another team to receive a hero's welcome was the Bright Stars basketball team of South Sudan. It was a fanfare at the Juba airport where they touched down from Paris. It was their first ever appearance at an Olympic Games. The performance of the Bright Stars in Paris has been a source of joy for the world's youngest nation, neighbor of war-torn Sudan, even though their dreams of medal glory were dashed when they failed to reach the quarterfinals after group stage defeats by the United States and Serbia.
When we first started, nobody thought that South Sudan has a place not only in Africa, but just in the world to be able to compete. It's very similar story to what South Sudan is as a country right now today. A lot of people don't give us chances, a lot of people don't believe in us, but because of what we are doing, people are starting to see potential, and we are on our way. Because of you guys, we are on our way.
And who can forget the Kenyan and Ethiopian athletes? Kenya's Faith Kipyegon made history by becoming the first woman to win 3 consecutive Olympic 1500-meter gold medals with a superb display of middle distance running. Another Kenyan, Emmanuel Wanyonyi, held off world champion Marco Arap of Canada to win the 800-meter men's gold in Paris. Wanyonyi clocked a personal best of 1 minute 41.19 seconds for victory, Arap taking silver just 1/100th of a second behind in a North American record. The legendary Eliud Kipchoge unfortunately dropped from the race Ethiopia's Tamira Tola took his spot and delivered a masterclass in solo front-running to win the Olympic men's marathon in Paris. In the women's marathon, Sifan Hassan, who is of Ethiopian descent, took gold for Netherlands with an Olympic record, ahead of Ethiopia's Tigist Asifa. All competitors at the Olympics represented their continent in equal measure, broke records, much to the delight of their countrymen and women. Africa Bureau, WION World is One.
Mia LaRue became the first deaf woman to be crowned Miss South Africa following a divisive competition which saw one finalist withdraw after being trolled over her Nigerian heritage. 23-year-old law student Chidima Adetshina pulled out of the competition following allegations that her mother may have stolen the identity of a South African woman. Kalden Ongmu filed this report from Johannesburg.
28-year-old Mia LaRue from Western Cape Province is the first differently abled Miss South Africa winner. She was diagnosed with profound hearing loss at the age of 1 and says her community rallied behind her to give her the gift of hearing, inspiring her desire to make a positive impact and break barriers. Rue's response to judges' question on what are some of the changes that she would bring to South Africa as a nation won hearts.
We are leaving too many South Africans behind, and I am here to teach the included how to be inclusive towards the excluded, as well as empowering the excluded with tools so they can reach their full potential, because our country is at its strongest when it is unified. Thank you.
Even though the finals of Miss South Africa pageant was a success, the event leading up to this glitz and glam event was marred with controversy because of one finalist and her nationality. Chidima Adetshina qualified for the top 10, but talks about her citizenship took center stage. The 23-year-old became a topic of intense debate on social media. The Home Affairs Department investigation was launched following a request by the pageant's organizers. Last week, Home Affairs Minister Leon Schreiber released a statement saying that the department had found a prima facie case against Adetshina's mother, who could have stolen an identity of a South African woman just before she gave birth to Adetshina. This further heated the debate until Adetshina announced her withdrawal from the pageant. Miss South Africa pageant has brought out the vulnerability in South Africans. Whether it's Mia LaRue or Chidima Adetshina, some South Africans have made it clear that no matter what, their citizens come first. Whether this is an act of xenophobia or Afrophobia, this debate will continue. This is Kalden Ongmu from Johannesburg, South Africa, for WION World is One.
In a report recently released, the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says Mpox cases have risen by 160% on the continent in 2024 compared to the 2023 record. As of the 28th of July, a total of 14,250 cases and 456 deaths with a case fatality rate of 3.2% have been recorded in 10 African nations, including Nigeria. While Nigeria recorded 24 cases with no deaths, the Democratic Republic of Congo topped with 13,791 cases and 450 deaths. Here's a report.
The scars from Mpox are still visible on 7-year-old Grace Kabuo's face, as well as on the faces of a handful of other children. She lives near and plays in a camp for displaced people near Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Grace has recovered, but her mother says she is still unsure how her daughter was infected earlier this month.
My daughter Grace had caught this skin lesion disease. I took her to the hospital where the doctors took good care of her and she recovered. And I don't know how or by whom my child had been contaminated. I just watched helplessly as the symptoms appeared on her body.
Grace had one of the first confirmed Mpox infections in the growing camps near Goma, where around 750,000 people have fled fighting between the M23 rebel group and the Congolese government. There have been 35 confirmed cases of Mpox in Goma since July 10, mainly among adults living in the displacement camps. The cases were caused by a new variant of Mpox that was first seen in a neighboring province, which seems to be better at transmitting between people than previous strains.
So children will be exposed, they will be affected. At the moment, they are few in number, but we wouldn't be surprised if that number grows. And children can also affect each other because of their close contact, playing together or sharing the same living quarters. So we do expect to see children, but we hope that those cases at least can be detected quickly and given the appropriate clinical care that they need to reduce pain, and reduce the length of illness and avoid complications and long-term sequelae.
The cases are an escalation of an Mpox outbreak in Congo that has already seen around 27,000 cases and claimed more than 1,100 lives since the beginning of 2023. Mpox, a viral infection that spreads through close contact, is usually mild but can kill. It causes flu-like symptoms and pus-filled lesions on the body. Congo is facing 2 outbreaks simultaneously. There are no vaccines or specific treatments for Mpox available in Congo outside of clinical trials, although they are available in other countries. Experts say work is underway to investigate the new variant's transmissibility and severity. The risk to children posed by the new variant is still unclear, as it spread mainly among adults in neighboring South Kivu, where it was first found.
There are 2 vaccines for Mpox that have been approved by WHO-listed national regulatory authorities and which are recommended by WHO Strategic Advisory Group of Experts on Immunization, or SAGE. I have triggered the process for emergency use listing of both vaccines, which will accelerate vaccine access, particularly for lower-income countries, which have not yet issued their own national regulatory approval. Emergency use listing also enables partners, including Gavi and UNICEF, to procure vaccines for distribution.
Doctors say they have discharged 82 patients and not seen any deaths yet. They do not know for sure which variant is behind all of the cases in the camps, as they have only sequenced a handful of cases. It is likely that more cases may have gone undetected. Africa Bureau, WION World is One.
Let's head to East Africa now. A mass circumcision was marketed to tourists in a remote area of Uganda. Some are angrily objecting the ritualized circumcision of thousands of boys known as Imbalu, which began on August 3rd in a remote corner of Uganda and will continue until the end of 2024. Here's a report from Kampala.
The ritualized circumcision of thousands of boys known as Imbalu is underway in remote corner of Uganda. This year, the local king has opened the festivities to the public, a decision which has raised eyebrows among many Bama Saba, an ethnic group of 4 million. They question whether the ritual should be turned into a carnival and believe it should remain a sacred ceremony in which families quietly prepare their sons to face the knife with courage.
It's a culture in Bugisu that if a son or a boy is born in a family, at some stage, at some point, this boy must get circumcised. So it's a culture that we believe in, and we are happy with it.
Allowing the public to witness the ceremonies was the decision of the king, known as Umukuka, who argued for a traditional festival that also looked attractive to visitors. The organizers of Imbalu were helped in implementing his vision with $120,000 in financial support from the Ugandan government and a corporate sponsor. The tribal initiation of boys into adulthood has long been controversial in African countries, with incidents of botched, deadly circumcisions inspired campaigns for safe clinical circumcision.
Our guga, our parents give us, is died, is passed on. But for us as preparing to give another children, if I'm passed on, the spirit can attach one and come to become a surgeon. This one can rule and give him power to rule dirty spirits.
Tribal circumcision is performed by a traditional surgeon wielding a knife, usually fashioned from melted nails. Surgeons say they can't afford to be flippant with their work because the wounds they inflict will not heal if they are not spiritually strong.
Even if you are dying, can arrest and circumcise you at night, he bury you morning. He can say, put you inside and circumcise well, put you, then you bury. You cannot bury in the land of Amasaba without circumcise. No.
The mass circumcisions will last until the end of 2024. Africa Bureau, WION, World is One.
Let's head to South Africa now. Slap fighting is gaining traction in the country, even though the health risks of the sports are not difficult to imagine. Here now is a report from Pretoria.
Never thought I'd be back in sports or even combat sports ever again since COVID. Luckily, power slap started, so I tried it out, fell in love with it straight away. I've got my pro license in it now. Competed in Las Vegas, now my 4th fight, and it's life-changing. This is one sport which I can basically say it's a way to cheat sports.
It's not that painful. Like the problem is when you see people fighting, obviously you've never done it before, so you're gonna can't they? No, it's easier than it looks.
We're more worried about what happens longer term, particularly with repeated impacts. So if one loses consciousness or undergoes repeated impacts in slap fighting, what is it doing to your brain in the weeks, months and years that follow? Particularly if those injuries aren't appreciated and recognized and aren't treated appropriately. That might result in accumulation of effects on the brain.
I'm Njoka. Thanks for watching this week's episode of World of Africa. Stay in touch with us on all our social media platforms and tell us what you think about the show there. Until next time, it is goodbye from me.
Massive turning point in the West Asia conflict. Israel opens Iran war front. Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh killed in Tehran A targeted attack during a visit to Iran for the new president's inauguration. Nearly 2,000 kilometers away in Beirut, Israel kills a top Hezbollah commander in a targeted strike. West Asia on the boil, war clouds darken, and the threat of a wider conflict grows bigger than ever.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000